Welcome back to the Digimon Seasonal Reviews, where I just realized I never spelled the word seasonal right in any of the thumbnails. I'm AJ, and we're going back to the beginning, that being Digimon Adventure from 1999. This season is what many consider to be the definitive standards of what a Digimon season should be. In fact, there's many other contributing factors to this, but I'll go through them one at a time. After a 4-year hiatus from the digital world, Shinji had returned to his creation in order to complete the final steps for his Decade of Misery. However, he needed to find a way to remove Marcus from the digital world. So, using his Jedi avatar, though this time appearing as an elderly man, he offered Marcus a chance to go back to the real world since his service was up. By surprise, Marcus agreed since he was getting tired of walking in the same places. He bid farewell to his Agumon, and he was off. This allowed Shinji to use the accelerated time frame one last time in order for new blood to step in. And so, on August 1st, 1996, Shinji summons the final Digidestined to File Island, and luckily enough, they were all staying at a summer camp. Except for Kari, but whatever. I can't imagine the insanity that was the massive Pokemon craze of the late 90s. The games, cards, and anime took the whole world by storm. And with many successful things, there were bound to be ripoffs trying to cash in on the success. However, one name always came up time and time again: Bandai's Digimon. Originally starting out as a one-shot manga in 1997, Bandai initially brought back the series as a male-oriented version to their Tamagotchi digital pet lineup, which already was a massive success. It is up in the air of what came first, the chicken or the egg, or in this case, the Pidgey or the Digitamamon. Should it be Digi-Eggmon since Digitamas are the Japanese name for Digi-Eggs? Holy shit, I just realized that Tama in Tamagotchi refers to the egg shape of the toy! Pokemon did start out in 1996, whereas the Tamagotchi virtual pets were already a thing since 1995. Plus, they weren't really rivals then. Heck, JRPG series about collecting monsters were already done before either IP were created. I think it was natural and logical for Bandai to make Digimon due to the previous success. But one thing I will admit, the Digimon anime would have not been possible without the Pokemon anime's influence. Or not as we know it as today. But then again, not really. If you go back to the 80s cartoons, their only purpose was to get kids to buy toys off of the characters from the show. So having a TV show promote a toy line is not anything new. I think a Digimon anime was possible, but it was that small push from Pokemon that stood out from all the other knockoffs. Plus, Digimon got it better because the show was animated by Toei. Allegedly, the anime was going to be 13 episodes, more than enough to promote the toys, but Toei ordered that it would be a full 50+ season, and the rest is history. However, they also decided to make a theatrical short that served as a prequel to the anime, and apparently, the movie was released one day before the first episode in Japan. That is insane. That's like if they aired the Clone Wars movie, and the next day they start airing Ambush on Cartoon Network. One of the positives the Digimon anime has compared to Pokemon was the music. I already talked about this feat in my other videos, but I think it's more apparent here. From the first note of the main theme Butterfly, it blasts you in the face that you are witnessing one of the most memorable isekai animes out there. Obviously, Pokemon does have the English dub theme song, which is iconic, but for the Japanese dub, you really have to be invested in the sub to know at least one song there. And honestly, this might be a hot take, I don't like the English dub theme for Digimon. Yes, it's memorable, but it gets repetitive and annoying real fast. However, there are other songs for the dub, but I'll save that for later on. Aside from Butterfly, the Japanese dub also has an insert song Braveheart, the B-sides of Butterfly 7, and the 2 AIM songs for the end credits, I Wish and Keep On. These songs are considered classics for the series, so much so that they remade them for the Tri-Films. Weirdly enough, for the box set of Adventure, the back of the booklet has English lyrics to Butterfly, Keep On, and Braveheart, despite this box set only coming with the English dub that features none of these songs. It's very strange. As for the main characters in the season, I won't go over them too much. Mainly because even those who have never seen the anime know about the main cast. It's like Star Trek in a way. I don't know much about it, but I can name you almost all the main casts of the Enterprise from the original series and the Next Generation. That's how iconic they are. Tai is the all-around hero, positive, friendly, and an overall Chad. He's played by Joshua Seth, who's more famous for playing Tetsu on Akira, as well as Chaos in Xenosaga episodes 2 and 3. Did you know he was also in the SpongeBob movie? The scene where Mindy frees the prisoner, that was him.
Bless you, Princess Mindy.
In other words, Tai was on SpongeBob. Which is funny in hindsight since he played a character who was a prisoner about to be executed. It's kind of foreshadowing of how Nickelodeon would screw over Digimon in more ways than one. He keeps to himself, at times playing his harmonica, but he's not too isolated since he's always concerned about his little brother TK. You might have noticed that TK and Matt, despite being brothers, have different last names, and that's because their parents got a divorce prior to the season. Though I'm not going to make a big deal about it like I did with Tamers, because there Rika explicitly stated her parents are separated, whereas in Adventure it's subtly implied, or at least initially. But in a way, TK can be considered the closest connection Matt has to his mom, and vice versa for TK for his dad. Might as well talk about TK for a little bit. He's played by Wendell Lee. He's the wondrous little kid of the group that is pure and innocent, but he is a smart kid even for his age. Sora is the strong female of the group. I wouldn't necessarily call her a tomboy, but she definitely has some of those traits. She tends to hang out with the guys, at times calling them out for their BS, but she is also the heart, no pun intended, of the group, rallying everyone together on the same page. She's played by Colleen O'Southern-Nessie, I probably butchered that name, and I believe this is her first role as a professional voice actor. Just goes to show that you could start out in a crack-filled, barely functioning shithole dub like Digimon, and years later star in the most successful video game movie ever made that also stars the Grinch. On the topic of more recognizable voice actors is Mona Marshall, who plays Izzy. Izzy is the brains of the group and the tech whiz. Every chance he gets, he wants to research the digital world and study off it. Of course, there's his catchphrase, Prodigious, which can be repetitive, but hey, this is a Saban series based off of a Japanese property. It could have been worse, it could have been more phenomenal. I should also bring up that he is adopted, and initially feels regret for it when he's a kid. However, in the present, that doesn't detract him from helping out others when needed. Personal story of mine. I remember watching a documentary from my radio course in college that talked about the importance of voice actors. At the end, the voice actors that were interviewed played one of their characters, and out of nowhere, Mona Marshall used her Izzy voice. That was like a mental flashbang being thrown on my face. And keep in mind, she has done other stuff, most famously playing a good amount of the female characters in South Park. She could have done Kyle's mom, who, yes, is a big fat bitch, but instead she went with the kid from Digimon. Joe is the other guy in the group, and he's the nervous type, despite being the oldest member of the group, also the medical guy. But he does get a bit of courage throughout, especially due to his partner's adventurous outlook. Mimi is kind of annoying, she whines, complains, and a bit airheaded. However, I don't fully hate her. Her heart is in the right place, and in the end, she does want to help out others and put a smile on everyone. Her Japanese voice actress is AIM, and like I said before, I have a feeling that the first 3 seasons of Digimon were commercials to buy AIM songs, and it's even more obvious where Mimi literally sings I Wish in an episode. Kari is the last one to discuss, and much like TK, I don't have much to say about her, or at least for this season. She's the younger sibling that's smart and kind, but yeah, I don't have too much to discuss. Some people call her a Mary Sue. I think that's unfair. The disadvantage that she has is that she shows up 3/4 into the season, and that's why people call her that name. There's not too much time to flesh out her character. I see it as them setting up her and TK as the younger Digidestined to appeal to the younger audiences, while also subtly developing their characters into being mature and having responsibilities when they get older, which I'm sure will have a satisfying payoff in the next season. And she's played by Laura Jill Miller, who occasionally does voice acting, but her voice is instantly recognizable. One last thing to address is that these characters don't really abandon their Japanese names. So Taichi, Yamato, Koshiro, and Takashi still exist in the English dub, they just use nicknames as their American names. I really like this concept since it bridges both subs and dubs together, and I wish that they tried to utilize this idea in later seasons. Also, I'm fine with Hikari being called Kari since Hikari means light in Japan, and that's too on the nose. As for the Digimon partners themselves, they reflect their tamers' attitudes, though a bit bland, although I can forgive it because it is the first season of the show. Agumon is loud and kind, and I always find joy whenever he opens his mouth. He has that welcoming presence that wants to have a good time. Gabumon serves more as Matt's conscience about helping out others and being selfless, and in return is able to understand Matt's loneliness and how he wants to work alongside the others as well as the struggles that come with it. Biyomon also serves the same direction, being the girlfriend Sora has in order to keep balance of her outgoing nature while also bringing it to heart. Again, no pun intended. Tentomon is just as eager as Izzy when it comes to analytics and research, and because of that bond, they work together to come up with the best solutions for each situation. Palamon is the true friend for Mimi. Rather than being fake, she's honest about her feelings, and they have that really tight relationship throughout the season, heavily being reinforced in the ending. Much like TK, Patamon is full of childlike wonder that explores the digital world alongside his tamer. Though he has kind of a hidden maturity when digivolving, which makes me wonder how does his mentality swap when changing forms? Or does he have a mask on whenever he's Patamon and he shows his true emotions when he's Angemon? And lastly, there's Gatomon. I don't want to be biased. Oh, who am I kidding? I really love this character, probably my favorite character in the whole series. She starts out as an antagonist, but becomes a part of the team. A simple concept that always works. However, she's not fully bad at first. She has doubts on what she's doing is the right thing, and is later revealed that she was always a part of the Digidestined since birth. Which more or less goes into the philosophy of if she has free will, or if her destiny was predetermined by fate. However, in Shareverse, it's a bit more apparent in the latter. Remember how in the last video I mentioned that the Dark Masters raided the lab where the Digi-Eggs were, alongside the Digi-Crystal, the thing that powered the digital worlds? Well, during the crossfire, one of the Digi-Eggs cracked and shattered. However, next to it was the Digi-Crystal, and it gave itself up to merge with the egg and repair it. And in the show, one of the Digi-Eggs Genai was carrying gets hit with a missile, and it falls in a forest. However, that was not the case in Shareverse. It turns out that egg was a bit heavier than the rest, and needed to be dropped. Let me flat out say it. Gatomon is infused with the Digi-Crystal and has been since birth. It literally allowed her to live. And it kinda makes sense when you put it in context. Gatomon was able to digivolve into her rookie form without the need of her tamer. All the others needed their initial bond in the first episode. Additionally, she's not only able to digivolve into her champion form by herself, but retain that as her default form. Again, without any assistance from Kari. Plus, she was able to do that all while the other partners were in their in-training form. However, that aspect of the backstory was omitted to the Digidestined in order to not learn what really happened. That's why Kari's body was being taken over during that big lore dump. Now with the backstory being Gatomon's egg was dropped due to a missile hitting the hand, and not because it was heavier. Question is, who was that person? It could have been Shinji covering his ass, or hell, it could have been Rei. You never know. Of course, there's other characters that help out the Digidestined, the biggest being Leomon and Ogremon. Originally starting out as rivals, these two have a black and white attitude. However, this changes over time with Ogremon realizing that there's more to life than fighting, and offers up responsibility when Leomon sacrifices himself while also getting rid of his werewolf, Saber Leomon curse. You can't talk about Gatomon without bringing up Wizardmon, her close companion she saved when working for Myotismon. He's wise, thoughtful, and caring to everyone. A lot of people like to ship these two. Personally, I ship Gatomon with Patamon because, well, they're angels, but I don't mind any wizard shippers. He's played by the late Rob Axelrod, who, aside from playing Zed on Power Rangers, and was on Tim and Eric, was also the villain in a 90s B-movie called Repo Jake. And since he uses the same voice, here's some of his classic dialogue alongside footage of Wizardmon.
And I see two people doing a little kissy-kissy, and I see a bunch of girls walking around in bikinis. What is this, a beach movie?
Hey, it's in my script. I got.
Fuck the script! These girls can't read! I want you to go out and hire 3 black guys. People like to see black guys fucking white, blonde women.
Then there's Genai, but he usually pops up every now and then, sometimes only showing up for exposition, either him or Pixiemon.
Yep.
Now comes the villains that perfectly sum up the 4 arcs of the season, well, 5 technically. Devimon is one-dimensional, but considering his arc was planned to be 13 episodes, again allegedly, his threatening appearance does work. Edamon is just a walking Elvis impersonation. He always uses the accent whenever he shows up, and he has an awkward chuckle. All he wants is power, and he gets into a literal overlord at the end of the arc, but he reappears later as Metal Edamon and oh god, put some clothes on! Myotismon, hands down, is the best villain of the season. He's smart, threatening, and overall commanding. There's an episode where he sucks the blood off of humans, plus kidnapping a boatload of children and putting them up for ransom. Now that's badass. I guess Shinji put the Wizard of Oz somewhere in the digital world's lexicon because he also quotes the Wicked Witch.
I've got you, my pretty. And your little cat, too.
Last up is Piedmon and the Dark Masters. These guys are alright. Puppetmon does get annoying for how much he screws over the kids the most. Piedmon just sits around and waits until it's his turn to fight, but he is a formidable foe that does turn almost everyone into keychains. I said this once and I'll say it again. Digimon is one hell of a drug. Now, technically there is one more villain, but I'll save him for later, much like the show, ironically enough. Now, you might be wondering why I called this video the way I did, and that's because Digimon Adventure's English dub is full of weird jank. I see it as the Stone Age, like apes before inventing the wheel that far back. It's really interesting to go back to the first season and note down all the weird, one-off things that happen that never occur in the other seasons. But you also get to see the dubbing team analyze and iron out any kinks, for lack of better words, evolve the season into what we know the series as today. Even with the voice actors, you can notice the difference from the beginning and the end of the season, where you hear the transitions from, oh, it's another Pokemon ripoff, let's put in the least effort possible, to, oh, this anime actually has a lot of heart and passion, we should take it seriously. There's a lot to list down. For example, Agumon's voice actor changes after the second episode, but personally, I didn't hear any difference.
Anywhere you want to go, I'll go, Ty. You just pick the direction. Hey, what's wrong, you guys? Can't you make this bucket go any faster?
However, for Koromon, it's very obvious since he sounds like a normal guy in the first episode, but the next time we see him, he's down pretty inside out.
It means brave little warrior, and don't forget it, Ty!
I'm really sorry I didn't live up to your expectations of me, Ty.
Supposedly, Wendy Lee played Ty in one episode,
Hey, check it out. You can see right through this wall.
and speaking of, there's a weird ADR line in one episode where someone speaks, but it's from none of the characters.
Beelzebub over here!
Matt.
There's also how episodes used to end. From 02 to Frontier, at the end of an episode, there's the to be continued text, followed by narration. Well, Adventure starts out with Ty narrating the end of an episode, followed by the screen panning back to a blue wire background for the first 2 episodes. Afterwards, they just don't do it again. But then out of nowhere, the episode where Lilymon is getting wrecked by Myotismon, so past the halfway point of the season, we get the to be continued sign and narration. Also around this point, the English dub also decides to use insert songs. There's Hey Digimon, that's used for whenever a villain is about to be defeated. Much like the theme song for the English dub, I find it really annoying. But then there's Change in the Power, which is 100% times better. Though the first time the dub uses it, threw me completely off guard. I think that's because the reason why I find Adventure so enjoyable. The audiences are watching the show grow alongside the voice actors and the writers for the dub, to get the right footing as the season continues. And in a way, that's how many outsiders see Digimon. At first a generic Pokemon clone, but give it time and it will exceed your expectations. Now I come to discuss the different arcs, but to be honest, since this season is the first season and everything is simplistic, I won't hark on it for too long. Except I will. I should bring up in the first episode, they state that global warming is a thing in Digimon, and the show never addresses it again. In Sureverse, that's completely bullshit. They just get sucked into a portal. No snow, no meteor showers or tidal waves, nothing. The Digimon arc is your usual season of everyone getting their champion forms, and then the villain appearing towards the end. I do like how everyone is buddied up with a partner, except for TK who's by himself, but serves as a build-up to the appearance of Angemon. Also, apparently his staff is a lightsaber. Personally, I'm not upset that Patamon spends the entirety of the Edamon arc as an egg or as Tokomon, since it shows growth and development of TK, and I'm sure it'll lead in TK becoming a fearless character when we see him in 02 that doesn't chicken out. By the by, the Edamon arc. I'm surprised this is the shortest arc in hindsight. But again, everybody getting their crests while also getting screwed over by Edamon and his Gizamon henchmen. There we get the Skull Greymon episode where Tai does get a bit out of character, but he gets called out for it by the others, so it's not a big deal. Later on, Edamon gets overwhelmed by data. With the help of Metal Greymon, he is taken out. But I guess this massive surge of data sends both Tai and Koromon back to the real world, where it's still August 1st. This is where we get the first introduction to Kari and the true responsibilities that Tai has to take now as a Digidestined. When he does return, he realizes that about a week has gone by, showing off the mechanics and rules of the accelerated time frame in the digital world. The first half of the Myotismon arc has the 7 kids come back together, some getting ultimate forms than others. They all come up with the decision to return to the real world and fight Myotismon and his goons there. I should also note that in the Japanese dub, the kids try to get a ride back home by hitchhiking in strangers' cars and even a prostitute. Japan is something else. In the English dub, they change it to getting a ride from one of the characters' unnamed relatives, which we know is bullshit. The English dub knows it's bullshit, but that's what they call it anyway. The second arc is definitely peak Digimon. The episode where Gatomon and Pumpkinmon hit the town, Kari's revelation of being a Digidestined, and the climax to the arc on top of the Fuji TV building. They call it Odaiba Day for a reason. Angemon fucks his shit up after killing her best friend in front of her, and Myotismon dies. Except he doesn't, and he comes back through a prophecy. Apparently he comes back from the dead on the 6th hour of the 6th minute of the 6th second. And they kept that in the dub. You know, for all the talk of Pokemon being satanic, and yet Digimon uses biblical references since day one and nobody seems to bat an eye. But we have a really climactic battle with War Greymon and Metal Garurumon up against Venom Myotismon, and the fight is so intense that the episode jumps right into the fight, no recap or theme song. Anyway, this is where we get the tradition of the two main characters getting everything and everybody else getting sloppy seconds, even having 3D models for their ultimate and mega sequences. Though the others do get 3D sequences in the PSP game, however, Toei and Bandai, especially more recently, has been trying to rectify that statement by having the other Digidestined of the season to have mega forms. This includes the PSP game, the Tri-Movies, and the reboot. I'm not against any of these additions, though I wish Gomamon's Mega was Polysiomon and not Vikemon. I just feel like it's a more logical form. Also because one of Shakumon's Mega routes is Vikemon, and I'm 90% sure that the 02 movie that's coming out will give him and Sylphimon a Mega form, but Gomamon already has Vikemon. Because of that, I'm mostly certain that they'll give his Mega form as /Angemon, since that's another route for him. Also, Gatomon gets two forms, Magnadramon and Ophanimon. But I'm not complaining, plus I can jot that down as one of the many perks to being infused with the Digi-Crystal. And now we can safely confirm that Myotismon is fully dead and not coming back. However, the season is not yet done, since now the real bosses of the villains appear, the Dark Masters. This arc kinda drags a bit. Puppetmon is around for an absurdly long time, and Metal Seedramon and Machinedramon get taken down pretty easily, both of whom are killed by War Greymon. But to be honest, his claws are meant for killing Draymon-type Digimon anyway, so it's not a big deal the others don't get the kill. Etemon does make a comeback, but his encore is cut short. But also, right before the final fight with Piedmon, Lady Devimon shows up as the secret 5th member of the Dark Masters. Bitch, where the fuck were you? I guess Toei and Bandai saw that Angewomon is the girl ultimate version of Angemon, and that Devimon is the evil version of him, so we gotta have an evil Angewomon. And she gets defeated in the same episode, and everybody acts like nothing happens in the end. By this point, Shanai and or Piximon also bring up that this season's Digidestined were not the first Digidestined to appear in the digital world. This could mean that any or all seasons from before could take place before Adventure, hence why this season takes place at the end of Shareverse's Decade of Misery, and not the beginning. If I had to take a shot in the dark, I would have to say they could be referring to Data Squad, since there was not nearly as much acceleration for the time frame, and Marcus was literally there just a few days ago. As for Piedmon's defeat, everybody is turned into keychains, again drugs, but Angemon steps up and finally digivolves into Magna Angemon, saving the day. I am kinda disappointed that he shows up at the very end of the series, but hey, now at least it'll set up for his further usage in the next season, since TK has full confidence in using him now. I'm certain nothing bad will happen! You have no idea how much I don't want to review 02. Now we come to the 5th and final arc, Apocalypmon. This guy is a riot. He shows up mainly because Toei thought that the series would be 52 episodes and not 54. So at the last minute, they drag this guy out as soon as Piedmon is defeated. This guy is such a downer. All of his quips refer to him being depressed and how he doesn't want to be there. And of course, this gem of a line.
Why do all of you get the pizza while I get the crust?
I would put him in the same category as Senator Armstrong, the true final boss that shows up at the last minute, but he has such a memorable performance that it makes up for his small screen time. Anyway, he locks up the heroes in an endless void, and we get one of the more iconic scenes in the series. Each character and their partner reminiscing about all their high and low points throughout their journey behind a white background. Now in Japan, this scene is backed up with the piano version of Butterfly, though the English dub does have a few funny moments.
As for you, Matt,
You don't have to say anything.
Eventually, the kids do break out of the White Room and have one final match with Apocalypmon. Much like the fight with Myotismon, no recap or theme song, the final episode just starts with the final battle. And yeah, he gets his ass beaten. Even to the point where all the kids' Digivices create a cube and throw him into space, further space, and nuke his ass! After the battle, Shinji, again still using his Janai avatar, he tells the kids to go back home. We then get a scene where each tamer has one final talk with their partner. Tears are shed, some gifts are exchanged, but Mimi can't find Palamon anywhere. However, the train is about to leave the digital world. However, Palamon comes running towards the already moving train and trips. Mimi shocked, losing her hat in the air. In the dub, they play Hey Digimon over the scene, which, knowing my opinion over the song, I think is unworthy. So let's see how you properly close out the season with the sub. Oh, never mind. But the point still stands. If you start the season with Butterfly, it's only natural you close out with it. That's how much power this one song holds. And with Tai bookending the narration, Joshua Seth now having full confidence in his character, that, my friends, is Digimon Adventure. However, if you know anything about Adventure, it doesn't stop with the season alone. There's countless materials that bounce off it. one of which is the best movie in the series, hands down, our War Game. This movie feels like a natural progression of the show in terms of character growth and threats. This movie is so good they made it again, and that movie was good too! A rampant Digimon is going around the internet and messing things up. Tai and Izzy, and later Matt and TK, tag along to take him out. Mimi's on vacation, Corey is at a birthday party, Joe's flipping out over a test, Sora is doing God knows what, and Tai's mom, who I forgot to say is a certified MILF, is baking a cake. All the while, Diaboromon is curb stomping her son's Digimon, and he hijacks 2 nukes. In the dub, he's going to use one of them for Colorado to wipe out Willis, since him and Gatomon are in cahoots with one another. The animation for the internet is great. I like how the Digimon have orange outlines to show the difference compared to the digital world. If I had one minor gripe is that Patamon is about to digivolve into Angemon, but he gets bitch slapped so hard that he doesn't try it again. The climactic battle of the birth of Omnimon, destroying countless copies of Diaboromon, is just awesome. Izzy tells every kid watching the fight on their computer to send emails. In other words, a Digimon villain is defeated via internet lag. That's actually kind of clever. Of course, I can't talk about our War Game without bringing up Digimon the movie, not to be confused with the Digimon movie. Those are 2 different things, though one is inside the other. What can I say that hasn't been said before? It stitches 3 isolated films into one film and tries to make them connect to one another. They had to remove the B-plot to Hurricane Touchdown entirely. There's the infamous Digirap, and of course, Angela Anaconda, a scene so unholy that it allegedly got a kid's parents to get a divorce. However, I will say one positive about this movie. It's got a killer soundtrack. Lean, Fatboy Slim, Bare Naked Ladies, Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, fucking All-Star by Smash Mouth. If you want to know exactly what the year 2000 sounded like, check this album out. To close things out, I have a bit of Shareverse trivia. So in the movie, they never specify where Diaboromon got the nukes from. In Shareverse, he got them from a private server. Keep in mind, these events happened in 1997 in Shareverse. Nuclear missiles, 1997. Yeah, Diaboromon unknowingly stole 2 nukes reserved for Skynet planned for Judgment Day. If it weren't for Diaboromon, we all would have been dead. This would be the first time a Digimon would cross paths with Skynet in Shareverse. And spoiler alert, it wouldn't be the last. By the way, Tai is trying to send a love letter email to Sora, which I'm certain will strengthen their relationship in 02. No cucking will come out of this. There's a whole lot of other things that happen in between Adventure and 02, both in canon and Shareverse. I'll rapid fire them. In 1986, shortly after Adventure, Ryo Akiyama time traveled from 1990, and the events of the Wonder Swan games happened throughout. Shinji also decided to give more kids Digimon, but this time throughout the world, and he also gave a Geni equivalent for each country. His primary targets were in Japan. Now knowing that Ryo traveled in time, he also gives some Monodramon to further close the time loop. He also gives Sam Michijoji and his little brother Ken Digimon partners, and they hang out with Ryo for the time being. After Diaboromon's defeat, Gatomon becomes evil since he was a sleeper agent if his plan failed. Some guy named Oikawa gets corrupted by Myotismon's ghosts and begins to create dark spores that can corrupt humans, specifically children. Sometime in 1998, Shinji and his Geni avatar told the 8 Digidestined, in order to fully close the gate between both worlds and awaken the Digimon Sovereigns, they would have to give up their crests and their partners' ultimate and mega forms. This would lead into the real final plans of the decade by creating 3 more Digi-Eggs and placing them in a cave, just cuz. And the final partners would be decided by Shinji depending on kids who had past experiences with the events of Adventure. That being Davis Morimiya, one of Myotismon's hostages, Cody Hira, who was on the plane Kabuterimon saved, and Yolia Nui, a kid that witnessed the battle between Omnimon and Diaboromon. At this point, Digimon was rapidly blowing up. What started out as a small, insignificant open secret in Japan has now become known throughout the world, especially after Diaboromon's stunt. Eventually, the truth of Shinji being the creator was going to come out one way or another. But the timing worked out perfectly with the big Pokemon craze of the late 90s, and Bandai wanted a piece of that pie. Shinji sold the entertainment rights of Digimon, which at the time were considered public domain, to Bandai to even distance the relationship with that and Evangelion, whose entertainment rights were held by Gainax. Later on in 98, Toei asked the Digidestined if they want to have an anime adaptation of their adventures, and they said yes. For the anime adaptations, they updated some aspects. Instead of the events happening in 1996, it's 1999, in order to make the story more contemporary. They also added climate change being a thing in the beginning of the season, but they never follow up with that, so it's their fault. And in 1999, an American company called Saban signs on for an English dub of the anime, and the kids begin to work at a building called Fox Kids, which leads into that storyline. Which also reminds me that I really should put all my storylines into playlists so people don't get confused. However, things would only be escalated further as the dawn of a new millennium was upon everyone. Digimon Adventure is one of those shows that's timeless from front to back. Great story, simple yet effective characters, and an all-around enjoyable experience. This would be the foundation for the rest of the series, and honestly, because it works so well, I'm not surprised they didn't change that formula that much. The next video will be the last retrospect, and it has to be on the worst season, Digimon Adventure 02. I'm already dreading writing the script for that video, so until then, I'm AJ, and be prepared for me to rip apart a season you probably loved next time.